An orphan, abandoned and aching for hope, stumbles into the wild and unexpectedly discovers a trembling, lost leopard cub. In that heartbeat of fate, their eyes meet, sparking a bond that defies the shadows of loneliness. This brief encounter ignites a journey of magic, peril, and the promise of transformation. The wind whispered softly through the tall trees as the orphan stepped into the quiet woods. Every step felt heavy with memories of a life filled with loss and longing. The young orphan, whose heart had known only loneliness, had learned to listen to the silence of nature. That silence was broken by a small, trembling sound, a soft cry coming from deeper within the forest. As the orphan moved forward, curiosity mingled with caution. The ground was covered in fallen leaves and wildflowers, and the soft rustle beneath the feet added to the mystery of the woods. With each step, the feeling of isolation gave way to a flicker of hope. It was as if the forest had planned this meeting long before the orphan ever took a single step. In a small clearing, half hidden by the shadows of ancient trees, the orphan finally saw it. A tiny leopard cub. The cub was curled up under a large oak, its golden eyes wide with fear. Its fur was a mix of deep amber and soft white, a living canvas that glowed in the gentle light. The cub shivered, not only from the chill of the night air, but also from the terror of being alone. For a moment, time stood still. The orphan and the leopard cub looked at each other, and in that silent exchange, something unspoken passed between them. The orphan felt a deep pull of compassion. Without a word, the orphan knelt beside the cub and slowly reached out a hand. The gesture was gentle and careful, like offering a friend a hand to stand up again. The cub, though frightened, sensed a kindness in the orphan's eyes. It did not run away. Instead, it inched closer, its small body trembling, but filled with silent plea for help. The forest around them seemed to hold its breath as the two souls connected. This meeting was not a mere accident. It felt as if fate had woven their paths together. In that clearing, the orphan remembered the old tales told by elders about wild animals that could mend broken hearts. These stories, filled with wonder and mystery, spoke of deep bonds between people and nature. Now, facing the lost cub, the orphan felt that those stories were more than just legends. They were a promise that even in the hardest times, a spark of magic could bring light into the darkest moments. Gently, the orphan scooped up the cub. The little creature's soft purr was the only sound that filled the space between them. The cub nestled close, its warm body offering a small measure of comfort against the cold night. The orphan's eyes filled with tears, not of sorrow, but of relief and gratitude for this unexpected companion. It was a feeling that had been missing for far too long, a sense of belonging and the hope of a shared journey. Together, they left the clearing. The path ahead was uncertain, yet the bond they had formed made every step seem a little lighter. The orphan cradled the cub, whispering soft words of reassurance. The woods, though vast and wild, now felt a little more like home. Each step was a promise of a new beginning, a chance to heal old wounds with the kindness of a small, brave heart. As they journeyed deeper into the forest, the orphan carefully observed the signs of nature. The rustle of the leaves, the chirping of distant crickets, and even the gentle hum of the earth seemed to guide them. It was as if every living thing was cheering them on, urging them to find hope in the midst of hardship. The cub, tucked safely in the orphan's arms, slowly began to trust the new world around it. The journey was not free from obstacles. There were moments when the sky darkened with heavy clouds, and the wind howled as if echoing the pains of past losses. But even in these moments, the orphan felt a steadfast determination. The cub's soft eyes and tiny paws were constant reminders that together they could face any storm. Each challenge they encountered only strengthened the bond between them and lit a fire of resolve in the orphan's heart. Every step forward was a small victory. With the cub by the side, the orphan discovered a new strength, a strength born from a connection that was pure and real. The forest, with its quiet magic, had given the orphan a reason to believe in second chances. In that shared silence between rustling leaves and beating hearts, the promise of a better future began to bloom. The next morning, the orphan and the little leopard cub set off along a winding forest path. The early light touched the leaves with soft gold, and every sound, a rustle here, a chirp there, seemed to promise a new beginning. With the cub nestled safely close, the orphan took careful steps into a world that was both familiar and mysterious. The path was not smooth. Fallen leaves and twisted vines lay scattered across the ground, and the forest floor seemed to whisper old secrets. Each step was a test of courage, as the orphan learned to navigate the uneven terrain, while the cub paused occasionally to sniff the damp earth. In these moments, the quiet determination of both became a small, powerful victory, a sign that even the hardest roads can lead to hope. As they ventured further, the forest revealed more of its hidden life. Tall trees arched overhead, forming a natural tunnel that filtered the sunlight into delicate beams. Small creatures scurried between the underbrush, and the distant call of a bird added a gentle melody to the scene. The forest was alive with subtle magic, and every sound and sight made the journey feel like an unfolding story. Reaching a bubbling brook, the pair paused for a moment of rest. The clear water rushed over smooth stones, washing away the dust of the road. Here, in the soft murmur of nature, the orphan felt a calm determination take root. The leopard cub sat close by, its bright eyes alert yet trusting, as if it knew that every drop of water carried a promise of a brighter day ahead. For those who are following this adventure, keep your eyes on the path ahead. Every step taken in the wild brings us closer to uncovering the secrets of this enchanted journey. Renewed by the brief respite, the duo continued on. The forest grew denser, and the air seemed charged with an unseen energy. The trees, older and taller, stood like silent guardians along the narrow trail. It was as if the forest itself was guiding them deeper into its heart. Along the way, small signs of the past began to emerge. A half-buried, mossy artifact here, a faded mark carved into a tree there, each one hinting at ancient tales and forgotten wisdom. In a clearing bathed in gentle light, the pair discovered an old, weathered stone. Covered in thick moss and etched with curious symbols, the stone seemed to pulse with quiet energy. The orphan knelt down, running a fingertip over the rough carvings, feeling a connection to a time when magic was woven into every corner of nature. The leopard cub, sitting silently at the stone's edge, tilted its head as if it recognized the patterns from a half-remembered dream. This small discovery deepened their bond and made the journey feel even more significant. The trail then led them along the edge of a steep ravine. The sound of water crashing far below filled the air, and each step along the rocky path required careful balance. The orphan moved slowly, mindful of every rock and twig, while the cub remained alert, its little paws patting softly on the uneven ground. The challenge of the ravine reminded them that every adventure has its risks, but also that facing those risks together makes the journey all the more rewarding. As the afternoon sun began to soften, the forest transformed once again. Shadows lengthened, and the air took on a cooler, quieter tone. The orphan gathered a few dry sticks and small bundles of leaves to start a modest fire near a rocky outcrop. The gentle glow of the flames danced over their faces, creating a moment of warmth amid the day's challenges. The cub curled up next to the fire, its eyes reflecting the flickering light, and for a moment, the forest seemed to hold its breath in quiet wonder. Nightfall crept in slowly, and the sky turned from soft orange to deep purple. Stars began to appear one by one, offering tiny sparks of hope in the darkening sky. In that tender twilight, the orphan felt a strong connection to both the forest and the cub. Every step on the journey was now a lesson in trust, and every silent moment was filled with promise. The bond between them grew stronger as they learned that even the unknown could be filled with wonder and light. Before sleep finally claimed the day, the orphan looked up at the sky, feeling that the journey had only just begun. The forest, with its quiet magic and hidden mysteries, promised that each new day would reveal more secrets. In that soft, lingering moment of dusk, the orphan vowed to keep moving forward, driven by the bond they shared and the hope that tomorrow would bring a new chapter in their incredible adventure. As the forest began to shift in mood, the once gentle morning light struggled to break through heavy, low-hanging clouds. A quiet tension filled the air as the orphan, still cradling the cub close, noticed that the familiar path now curved into darker, unknown corridors. Every step felt heavy with anticipation and an unspoken warning, as if the forest itself was preparing them for what lay ahead. They pressed forward with caution. The path was now littered with broken branches and scattered leaves that whispered stories of past hardships. Occasionally, an unexpected rustle echoed through the trees, a sound that might have been carried by the wind or perhaps something more. The cub's ears twitched and its eyes widened, silently urging the orphan to be alert. Together, they moved in a slow, careful rhythm, bound by a growing need to protect one another. Deeper into the forest, the trees huddled closer, their dense canopy forming a barrier that obscured the sky. Shadows danced on the forest floor, turning familiar shapes into mysterious figures. The usual lively sounds of birds and small animals faded into a foreboding silence. In that silence, every step became a careful act of bravery. The orphan's heart pounded steadily, yet with each passing moment, an uneasy feeling crept over them, a feeling that something unseen was drawing closer. Then, in a brief moment of calm amid the rising tension, the duo reached a small clearing. Here, thin beams of light broke through the canopy, landing on an ancient stone covered in moss and etched with strange symbols. The orphan knelt down and traced the worn carvings with a trembling finger. The stone seemed to hum with a quiet power, a silent messenger of secrets long held by the forest. The cub, nestled beside the orphan, watched with wide, curious eyes, as if it understood that this relic was more than a simple marker. It was a sign of the deep mysteries at work. For those following this journey closely, each clue, each hidden sign adds another layer to the unfolding mystery. If you're eager to keep up with every twist and turn, rest assured that more revelations are just around the corner. The air soon shifted once more. Distant thunder rumbled, and dark clouds gathered quickly overhead. The forest, which had once resonated with subtle magic, now pulsed with an almost electric energy. Raindrops began to fall, soft at first, then in a steady, relentless drizzle that blurred the world into shades of gray. The orphan quickened their steps, the sound of rain mingling with their racing heartbeat, while the cub pressed itself even closer in silent solidarity. As the rain intensified, a new figure emerged at the edge of the path, a shadow moving with slow, deliberate steps. The orphan squinted to the curtain of rain, trying to determine whether this presence was friend or foe. The leopard cub, sensing a shift in energy around them, let out a low, cautious growl. The figure paused, standing in the downpour with the hood pulled low over its face, watching the pair with an unreadable expression. A long, tense moment stretched as the stranger's eyes flickered briefly in the dim light. Without a word, the figure extended a hand and made a subtle gesture toward a narrow, less trodden trail that led into an even darker part of the forest. This silent signal, part invitation, part warning, forced the orphan into a moment of decision. Should they continue on the path they knew, or follow the beckoning into a realm of greater uncertainty? Every instinct screamed caution, yet the pull of the unknown was too strong to ignore. The forest now seemed to vibrate with the promise of hidden truths and lurking dangers. With the rain drenching their clothes and the air charged with energy, the orphan gripped the cub even tighter and took a deep, steadying breath, stepping off the beaten path. They ventured toward the narrow trail, leaving behind a relative comfort of the familiar for a journey fraught with both peril and possibility. As they moved forward, the forest whispered of ancient trials and potential for life-changing discoveries. The mysterious figure lingered in the background, a silent sentinel to the decision that could change everything. The path ahead was dark and uncertain, yet each step felt like a necessary move toward unlocking a secret that had long been hidden beneath the forest surface. The narrow path was dark, and every step echoed with uncertainty. The stranger had vanished into the rain, leaving the orphan and the cub with a choice that would shape their destiny. They exchanged a determined glance and continued down the path, each step heavy with both hope and a hint of fear. The cool air clung to them as the forest seemed to hold its breath. With every careful step, the pair moved deeper into a realm where every rustle of leaves and every faint sound whispered secrets of an age-old mystery. The cub's small paws patted softly on the damp ground, and the orphan's heart beat steadily as they pressed onward. The memory of the stranger's silent invitation lingered, a call to follow a path that promised danger, wonder, and answers to questions long left unspoken. As the trail wound further into the forest, the trees grew taller and the shadows lengthened. Each towering tree stood like a silent guardian, their branches interlacing to form a vaulted ceiling that blocked out much of the fading light. In this twilight, the forest quiet became almost tangible, filled with unseen voices and stories waiting to be told. Unexpectedly, the path opened into a small clearing marked by a series of mysterious footprints. These were no ordinary prints. They were large and deliberate, leading toward a narrow, winding trail hidden beneath a canopy of ferns and wild vines. The orphan knelt down to study them, running a careful finger over the impressions. There was something both familiar and otherworldly in the pattern, like a silent message left behind by a traveler from a different time. The cub nudged the orphan, drawing attention to a soft, shimmering light that danced at the edge of the clearing. It flickered gently among the trees, too subtle to be the sun, and too steady to be the remnants of their earlier campfire. The light pulsed with a quiet promise, beckoning them forward into the unknown. For a moment, the world around them seemed to fall silent, the only sound the soft rustle of leaves and their own measured breaths. Drawn by an unspoken force, the orphan rose and carefully picked up the cub. The pair began to follow the light, their steps tentative yet resolute. The deeper they ventured, the more the forest seemed to change. The air grew thick with the scent of wet earth and ancient bark, and the sound of a distant stream provided a constant, soothing murmur that contrasted with the tension of the unknown. Not far along the path, they came upon a weathered signpost. Its letters had long since faded, but one clear symbol remained, a simple, intertwining mark of a leaf and a star. The orphan's fingers brushed over the emblem, and memories of old tales filled the mind. Stories of enchanted paths, wise guides, and secret powers hidden in nature's quiet corners. The cub's soft purr resonated like a quiet reassurance in that moment of discovery. Suddenly, the ground beneath them began to tremble. The gentle quake was not strong enough to send them sprawling, but it was enough to remind them that the forest was alive with hidden forces. Overhead, dark clouds churned as a low rumble of thunder rolled in the distance, and the soft light in the clearing flickered in response. Every detail, the rustling leaves, the glimmering light, the trembling earth, spoke of change and secrets waiting to be unraveled. Then, without warning, a small fissure appeared in the ground. From it emerged a soft glow that grew brighter with each passing second. The orphan and the cub stopped in their tracks, watching as the fissure widened and an outline began to take shape. Slowly, the glow formed the figure of a being that was neither entirely human nor animal. Its eyes shone with an inner light, and the air around it seemed to shimmer with a mix of warmth and foreboding. In that charged moment, the orphan's heart pounded louder than ever before. The cub pressed closer, its instincts alert to the shift in the air. The mysterious figure raised a hand in silent invitation. No word were exchanged. Instead, a powerful, unspoken promise of hidden truths and looming challenges passed between them. The forest alight, the trembling earth, all converge in that brief, potent moment of destiny. Just as quickly as it had appeared, the figure stepped back into the glow of the fissure, which began to close as if it had never been there. The mysterious light faded, leaving the orphan and the cub standing in a sudden, heavy silence. The forest resumed its quiet murmur, but the air was now thick with questions. What secret had the figure guarded? Was it a guide, a warning, or something else entirely? Before the orphan could move or speak, a sharp crack of thunder echoed overhead, and the scene blurred as shadows deepened. The path ahead seemed to twist into even darker mysteries, hinting that the adventure was far from over. In that final, tense moment, with the forest whispering secrets and the unknown beckoning, the future hung in a delicate balance, a promise of revelations yet to come and dangers waiting just beyond the next bend.